hemos dejado ya unos oportunos minutos de cortesía, que no queremos que se conviertan en descortesía para los que ya están conectados. Entonces, bueno, Juan, pues cuando tú quieras podemos comenzar.
Muy bien, pues buenas tardes, Javier. Buenas tardes al resto de asistentes a este acto inaugural del foro, de este foro. Veo que al parecer estamos 34 personas, creo que es todo un éxito de participación y bueno, pues por ello quiero felicitar, ¿no? Quiero felicitar a los dos directores y a la directora, ¿no? Por este éxito, que en estas circunstancias de COVID justamente pues sigamos haciendo actividades, en este caso online, y sigamos haciendo actividades con este éxito de participación. Quiero felicitarlos y agradecerles. Quiero agradecer tanto a Javier Marín, director del festival y director de este foro, como a Raquel Andueza, que es presidenta de GEMA, del Grupo de Españoles de Música Antigua, y también, pues, directora de este foro, y a Oriol Aguilá, presidente de FES Clásica, y también director del Festival de Peralada. Muchas gracias por acordaros de la Universidad Internacional de Andalucía para hacer actividades formativas, que además son actividades formativas en torno a la música antigua, y que van de la mano del Festival de Música Antigua. Muchas gracias, y es una pena que no se puedan hacer presencialmente. Esperamos que en los sucesivos años esta actividad o actividades de este tipo se puedan realizar presencialmente en Baeza, que como sabéis es una ciudad patrimonio de la humanidad, y muy agradecido por vuestra colaboración. El Festival de Música Antigua de Úbeda de Baeza es hoy un referente internacional en la temática. Se trata de un festival con una larga longevidad ya. Me consta que son 24 ediciones las celebradas. Y en ella pues han ido participando o participan músicos de primer nivel internacional. Eso está constatado en el fuerte arraigo que tiene en las ciudades de Úbeda de Baeza y en toda la provincia. Y además está recientemente, ya en las últimas 3 ediciones, si no me equivoco, pues consiguió ese sello de calidad F, que la acredita como uno de los mejores festivales europeos. Por lo tanto, yo creo que se trata de un festival ampliamente reconocido y ampliamente consolidado. Prueba, además de ello, de esa consolidación, es las instituciones que están detrás, ¿no? Las instituciones que apoyan este festival. Lo apoyan desde el Ministerio de Cultura, desde la propia Junta de Andalucía, la Diputación Provincial, o los distintos ayuntamientos y universidades del entorno provinciales que tienen competencias en este entorno. Al hilo de este festival se ha creado un ciclo de Bandelvira, y también el ciclo de Bandelvira, que es un pequeño festival. Digo pequeño porque tiene menos trayectoria, pero también una trayectoria importante, y que es un festival itinerante dentro de la provincia, y que se complementa muy bien con este festival de Úbeda y Baeza, este festival de música antigua. La Universidad Internacional de Andalucía se incorpora a este gran proyecto de este festival en el año 2001, justamente en la 5ª edición de este festival. Y desde entonces pues hemos venido participando con este festival, especialmente o sobre todo en cursos, congresos, donde estaban dirigidos e interpretados por investigadores y por intérpretes de primer nivel. Ha habido después de todo, creo que 20 actividades académicas entre cursos, talleres, congresos y un montón de cuestiones. Además, últimamente, pues también, o recientemente, mejor dicho, se ha editado un libro que recoge la investigación más importante de musicólogos en torno a un congreso, ¿no? Y también ha sido una obra pues que brillantemente ha editado la Universidad Internacional de Andalucía bajo la dirección de Javier Marín. Por todo ello y por mucho más, pues no tengo más que reconocer ese trabajo de Javier, felicitar en esta ocasión por esta actividad a los 3 directores y animaros a que continuéis con esta excelente labor por la música antigua y en general por la cultura que venía haciendo. Ahora pues os cedo la palabra pues a los directores, ¿no? No sé en qué orden vais a intervenir.
Bueno, si acaso por hacer de bisagra, también me considero casi huésped de la UNIA porque, como bien mencionaba Juan, que es el director académico de la Universidad Internacional de Andalucía, la UNIA está vinculada al festival desde hace ya casi 2 décadas, realizando una aportación bastante importante que se ha sustanciado fundamentalmente en la realización de congresos y actividades académicas. Casi siempre, y esto es importante subrayarlo, han sido congresos de tipo temático, con un fuerte componente científico, siempre circunscritos al ámbito específico de la música antigua. Y en esta ocasión, cuando a principios de año comenzaron las primeras noticias sobre la pandemia, yo ahí ya pensé que sería interesante hacer algo en clave sectorial. Luego, poco a poco, conforme fueron pasando los meses, llegó el verano, comenzaron los festivales de verano, parece que la situación comenzaba a mejorar. Yo entonces pensé que sería bueno volver a nuestro modelo y a nuestro esquema original de hacer algo de tipo científico, algún curso, algún congreso, pero cuando comenzó septiembre la situación se recrudeció considerablemente y fue ahí cuando decidimos retomar la idea original de plantear un encuentro en clave sectorial. Y para ello siempre tuvimos claro que era necesario hacerlo de la mano de estructuras que estaban ya creadas y que tenían mucho que decir en relación a la cuestión general de la música en directo, de la clásica en directo y específicamente de la antigua. Y ahí fue cuando surgieron los primeros contactos, tanto con GEMA, con la Asociación de Grupos Españoles de Música Antigua, en particular con su presidenta, con Raquel Andueza, y también con FESClásica, la Asociación Española de Festivales de Música Clásica, con Oriol y también con Marta, que lleva la Secretaría Administrativa. Desde un primer comienzo, su respuesta fue entusiasta y ese entusiasmo se acabó por volver en algo contagioso y finalmente pues, hemos concebido este encuentro a 3 partes con una temática pues, muy oportuna y en la cual hemos pretendido que tengan reflejo y cabida todos los representantes o todos los segmentos que están involucrados en el sector de las músicas históricas. De ahí que haya mesas con programadores, haya mesas con intérpretes, haya mesas desde el mundo del periodismo y las tecnologías también, y una mesa general de cierre donde se traten temas más transversales, precedida al inicio por esa perspectiva internacional y europea que yo también considero que es imprescindible en el actual escenario. Por mi parte, nada más, agradecer en todo caso a la Universidad Internacional de Andalucía su favorable disposición para la realización de esta actividad que en un comienzo siempre se planteó como siempre lo habíamos hecho en Baeza, es decir, atrayendo e invitando a todos los profesionales y los profesores a la ciudad de Baeza, porque la sede que tiene allí la universidad es realmente impresionante. Es un antiguo seminario del siglo XVII, tiene una parte académica, de clases, donde se hubiera realizado el foro, y luego una parte de residencia, que son las antiguas celdas de los seminaristas, convenientemente rehabilitadas al uso moderno, y que conforma todo ello un espacio sumamente idóneo para el desarrollo de la actividad. Nos tendremos que conformar este año con el formato virtual, pero retomaremos la presencialidad tan pronto nos sea permitida, y en todo caso creo que haciendo de la necesidad virtud, pues bueno, también permite que tengamos colaboradores que si lo hubiéramos hecho presencialmente quizá no hubiéramos tenido. Por lo tanto, mi agradecimiento institucional a la universidad, personal también, a Juan como director académico y por supuesto a Oriol y a Raquel como representantes de ambas asociaciones, pues por la ayuda y por el apoyo constante para el desarrollo de la actividad. Por mi parte nada más. Quizá podemos dar la palabra a Raquel Andueza como presidenta de GEMA.
Bueno, buenas tardes a todos, a todas. Muchísimas gracias por habernos involucrado en esta locura, Javier, porque la verdad es que cuando miramos ahora el programa, cómo está conformado, todos los invitados que van a venir, es un lujo. Nosotros como GEMA, como esta asociación de grupos de música antigua a la cual estamos asociados la mayor parte de los agrupaciones de músicas históricas en España, solemos hacer una feria cada 2 años, una feria internacional que tocaba haber sido realizada este año. y con la situación no hemos podido llevarla a cabo, así que la invitación de Javier nos vino como un oasis en medio del desierto, puesto que gracias a la colaboración con vosotros y tanto con FES Clásica hemos podido conformar una especie de feria virtual en la cual, como decías tú, no voy a hablar del contenido, que lo has explicado muy bien, Javier, está conformado por diferentes y un poco todos los agentes involucrados, ¿no?, en el sector cultural de la música histórica. Entonces, bueno, para mí es un privilegio. Ahora mismo acabo de cumplir un año en la presidencia de GEMA y ha sido un año muy complicado y al mismo tiempo ha sido muy constructivo y muy fructífero. Estoy aprendiendo mucho gracias también a esta situación y a que la comunicación entre todos los diferentes sectores es más grande que nunca. Agradezco muchísimo a todas las personas que estamos aquí ahora mismo, estamos 38, y voy a saludar un poco en inglés a los compañeros de Europa que vienen porque no se están enterando de mucho y se van a empezar a quejar. So, hi everybody, my English is not so good. But I would like to greet you all. Welcome to this forum. And we are very, very happy to have you here. And at 5 o'clock, we will start with this European table. So it will be all in English, so don't worry. So thank you for your patience. And thank you all for having replied so positively to our invitation. Thank you.
Thanks, Raquel.
¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes. Sí, perdona, es que tenía el micro ahora cerrado. Un placer veros, Raquel, Javier, todos los compañeras y compañeros. Dar las gracias a Juan y a la Universidad por acogernos y desde FES Clásica dar las gracias a Javier y Raquel por podernos sumar a esta iniciativa. Felicidades, Javier, por llevar a cabo pues este encuentro, también por tu santo hoy y bueno, por este combate que nos toca vivir en estos momentos. La verdad es que estar hoy en el marco de Úbeda y Baeza nos lleva al recuerdo de Diego Martínez, que nos ha dejado tan recientemente y que pues desde FES Clásica pues también queremos recordarlo en estos momentos. FES Clásica somos 36 festivales, Raquel y Javier lo saben muy bien, que compartimos buenas prácticas, compartimos problemáticas, horizontes, políticas culturales, también organizamos circuitos. Recientemente hemos organizado una entrega de premios para reivindicarnos y también poner en valor pues lo que hacemos en la sociedad. Los festivales creemos que somos sinónimo de cultura, de conocimiento, en el caso de la música histórica, de patrimonio, del cual Baeza es un gran exponente o referente, tradición, creatividad sin duda, inspiración, ¿por qué no decirlo? Somos fuente de vida, de libertad, de encuentro, y esto en estos momentos lo queremos reivindicar porque no somos algo no esencial, sino que somos precisamente más esenciales que nunca, porque sin la música la vida seguramente no tendría sentido y para empezar un foro como el que nos reúne, pues creo que no sobra decirlo, ¿no? Y un encuentro como este, con esta visión transversal a la que hacía referencia, pues nos permite, por ejemplo, mañana en el foro de festivales, pues compartir riesgos, compartir cómo hemos arrancado, compartir cómo vemos el futuro, las siguientes ediciones, oportunidades, buenos ejemplos de lo que no tenemos que hacer cuando hemos cometido errores y de los errores aprendemos todos. Esta generosidad de poner en común lo que hacemos, en catalán decimos ara caic, ara m'aixeco, que no sé cómo se dice, castellano quiere decir ahora caigo, ahora me levanto, más o menos. Quiere decir que al final, en un escenario como el que vivimos hoy, pues todos estamos aprendiendo a marchas forzadas. Lo he dicho a Raquel, le ha coincidido el primer año de presidencia en GEMA, pues con un año el más complicado que nos hubiéramos podido imaginar. al final de todo esto queda compartir, estar juntos. Quizás suena muy cursi decir esto, pero es que al final, si tú estás con alguien que tiene los mismos problemas, tú explicas, escuchas, tu compañero explica, tú le escuchas y de aquí ves la luz. Y estos meses, el hecho de conectarnos a través de plataformas como esta nos ha servido muchísimo y hemos avanzado en protocolos, en cómo gestionar el COVID en los escenarios, en las salas, la seguridad, como... Entonces, un foro como este, pues permite poner en valor todo esto. Y Raquel recordaba a los colegas que vienen de otros países. La verdad es que Europa sin festivales tampoco tiene sentido y creo que también es importante decirlo. Y nada más, dar las gracias, dar la bienvenida a todos los participantes y esperamos que sea muy fructífero y que al terminar, pues todos digamos, ha valido la pena y vamos a salir adelante. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Oriol, por tus palabras. Me parece muy interesante esa perspectiva que introducía sobre esta cuestión de la humanización de nuestra vida profesional, ¿no? Hay momentos en que con tanta prisa a veces perdemos la perspectiva de quiénes realmente somos y cuál es nuestro cometido aquí, ¿verdad? Entonces, ha sido, yo creo que una de las muchas lecciones que nos va a dejar la pandemia, siempre tratando de, con este espíritu positivo y constructivo, aprovecharla también como una oportunidad para la innovación, para introducir mejoras y, en definitiva, para implementar pues, estrategias de mejora. Justamente uno de los objetivos del foro es esa doble perspectiva. Por un lado, un pequeño balance de lo que ha supuesto estos 6 meses, desde el punto de vista de la experiencia, pero yo no me detendría quizá demasiado en eso. Creo que puede revestir mayor interés la mirada hacia el futuro. Es decir, con la experiencia acumulada de este medio año, cuáles son las estrategias que podemos idear desde los distintos segmentos y ángulos del sector para que el aterrizaje pandémico sea lo menos traumático posible. Todavía siento que estamos un poco en caída libre, ¿no? Haciendo malabarismo y viendo a ver cómo gestionamos el aterrizaje. Creo que aún no lo hemos hecho. Hay que gestionar eso y sobre todo ver cómo restauramos el antiguo orden perdido. La idea es que el foro pueda aportar algunas ideas en este sentido. Por supuesto, no va a tener la última palabra en nada porque estamos sujetos a la inmediatez de este momento, pero bueno, al menos vamos a proponer también la grabación de las sesiones para que quede como documento histórico de cómo se veía la situación a principios del diciembre de 2020. Por mi parte nada más, quizá unas pequeñas instrucciones técnicas que creo que ya avanzó Ascensión Mazuela en un correo genérico que envió a todos los participantes. Creo que ya todos nos estamos haciendo expertos en tecnología, pero bueno, nunca viene de más repasar la cuestión de mantener los micrófonos cerrados, ¿verdad? Mientras no se está interviniendo, todo esto en la medida posible, aunque la plataforma está preparada y soporta bastante bien que haya varios micros abiertos sin ningún problema, pero bueno, solo por precaución. Y luego también recordar que hacia el final de cada mesa temática habrá unos minutos para que todos los participantes, ya sean miembros de otras mesas o bien personas y profesionales que se han inscrito de manera libre, para que también puedan incorporarse al debate, plantear sus comentarios, sus preguntas y actuar así como agitadores, ¿verdad?, para promover el debate. También nos informamos de que la totalidad del foro va a ser grabado con la idea de que posteriormente pueda ser puesto a disposición pública de todos los interesados. Y en este sentido, si hay alguien que no desea o que no da su consentimiento para ser grabado, lo que podemos hacer es que en postproducción podemos cortar los fragmentos correspondientes a esa persona y no habría ningún problema. Solo con notificarlo por escrito sería suficiente. Finally, we would like to say hello also to our European colleagues from Spain. It's very important, this European perspective, especially at this moment. So we are really happy to have you here, and we encourage you to stay during the complete forum, okay? Not only during the international session, but if you want, you are very welcome to stay with us during the full series of the forum. So thank you for accepting our invitation. Y bueno, estamos a 5 minutos del inicio. No sé, Juan, si querrías hacer unas palabras de cierre, un pequeño receso de unos minutos y ya comenzaríamos a las 5 en punto la primera sesión.
Por mi parte, todo bien, ya podemos continuar y agradecer de nuevo y ya lo dejo perfecto. Tengo aquí el niño que está, se oye. Lo siento, venga, hasta ahora. Adiós.
Muchas gracias, Juan. No te preocupes. Bueno, es también reflejo de la situación de la pandemia, ¿verdad? Esta múltiple casuística que uno se encuentra también con las cuestiones de conciliación familiar. Estamos entonces...
el perrito en algún momento también estos días, ¿eh? Seguramente.
Muy bien. Os decía que estamos a 4 minutos del inicio de la sesión. Estoy viendo que entre los asistentes está ya Albert Recassens, a quien ya saludamos antes al comienzo. También estoy viendo a Albert Edelman, a Bart Demuyt, a Delma Tomlin y a Veerle Declerck. Entonces me parece que ya estaríamos todos, si no estoy equivocado, con lo cual, si os parece bien o si a Albert le parece bien, incluso ya podríamos dar inicio a la sesión. Hello, Peter. Thank
Hello.
you. Welcome. I think that now we are on time.
Yeah.
So,
Hola,
if
Raquel.
you want, Albert, I think we can start right now. So please remember that while you are not speaking, it will be recommendable to start down the microphones, okay, in order to get the best possible sound. So let's go, Albert.
Good. So thank you very much, Javier, and welcome to everybody to this afternoon meeting around the music and the pandemics. I'm very proud to be with you. I'm sure that we will be able to discuss about one of the most important matters that we are living at this moment in our lives, the pandemic and our music, so our life, our life love, I would say. So for me, it's really a pleasure to have in this room, in this table, to such a great colleagues of the early music in Europe. And I will present you. And before I will just remember how we will proceed this afternoon. So we have 1.5 hours of discussion. We have some matters, issues that we consider that they are very important to discuss this situation. And at the end, so we will have some interventions. Everyone will have 5-7 minutes to start with your point of views, your opinions, and then we will start an open discussion time, more or less 20 minutes, and we would like that we have 10 minutes at the end for questions that you may have. All the students, musicians, promoters, and persons who are listening to this meeting, this forum. I would like to start the presentation of our colleagues this afternoon. The first, I will follow the alphabetic order. Okay, so I'm sorry because you are all good friends of mine. You are all of you experts in the historically informed performance, and you know the order is to follow one order. So the first person that I would like to present is Albert Edelman. Goedenavond, Albert.
Dag Albert.
Goed. Albert Edelman is the artistic coordinator of the Concertgebouw in Bruges, in Brugge, since 2012. He has been artistic assistant of the Utrecht Early Music Network, and at this moment he's also the president of the REMA, you know, the association that represents around 90 members organizations from 22 countries. And Albert is also he has worked a lot about the future, to reflect the future of the HIP, the historically informed performance practice. And I recommend to everybody to read his essay, Capturing Early Music, that we can read online in the Holland Baroque magazine. The second person that we have with us this afternoon is Veerle Declerck. Hello, Veerle. Hello.
Sorry. Hello. Yeah.
Okay. So I present all of you. Veerle is also a good friend. I'm sorry, because in her case we are.
You don't have to excuse you.
Yes, but I mean, we were students at the same
long
time.
Long
time ago in the University of Leuven, the KUL. Veerle at the moment is the early music coordinator of the Beaux-Arts, the Palais des Beaux-Arts in Brussels. You know, the wonderful building of Victor Horta with 300 concerts, and I think more than 50 or 60 concerts of early music every year before the pandemic. She holds a bachelor's degree in musicology from the KUL. She was director of the Festival van Vlaanderen in Mechelen, you know, one of the Flanders' most oldest, I think, classical music festivals. She was there, I think, Veerle, 15 years.
Yes, 15 years.
Yes, 15 years. And at the moment, she's also competing with the membership of the board of the Philharmonie, the Belgian Symphony Orchestra. She's part of the board of the Study of Center of Flemish Music, the Study Documentation Center of Flanders, and she's also a board member of the SIGEL, the International Arts Institute for Theater, Dance, Music, and Architecture. So welcome, Veerle.
Thank you, Albert.
The next person that I would like to present is Bart Demuyt. Hello, Bart. Bart, I suppose he's here.
Hello, Albert. Hello, dear friend.
Hello. Bart is also a musician. Bart studied at the prestigious Lemmens Institute in Leuven, where he specialized in early music and voice. He also joined the University of Leuven, and he performed with a lot of renowned ensembles of early music in Europe, the Collegium Vocale, Capilla Flamenca, Chapelle Royale. I think it's also a very curious case. Some of us, they are musicians and music directors or teachers at the university. Bart was in the artistic staff of Música, the Impulse Center of Music. He was the general director of the Flanders Festival Música Antigua Bruges, and also a short time, I think, director of the Concertgebouw in Bruges, in Flanders. In 2008, he returned to the KUL University as director of Alamire, the foundation for the study of music in the Low Countries. Since 2009, he's the artistic director of AMUS, the Flanders Festival of Antwerp, and the curator of early music for the festival, director of the Laus Polyphonia Festival. He also has a relationship as senior innovation manager of the House of Polyphony, and he's president of the Arts Advisory Committee of the Flemish Community, and he has been also president of REMA. So lots of things, but I'm sorry because we have almost spent the most of time of this meeting time to present you three, but we have to continue. Good afternoon, Peter. Peter.
Good afternoon.
Okay, Peter could also speak Spanish. He speaks very well Spanish.
Hola, hola.
Hola, hola. Bienvenido.
Gracias, Alberto.
Venga, I will present Peter Pontvik. He's the director of the Stockholm Early Music Festival. He studied composition, musicology, singing, choir conducting in Sweden, Uruguay, and Germany. He's also a renowned director of the ensemble Villancico. It's one of the most important ensembles for the music of the early music from Latin America. But he's here because he also founded the Stockholm Early Music Festival in 2002, and he combines this responsibility with the task of in the organization of the Nordic Nordem, the Association of Nordic Festivals, and he has also been the president of the REMA Association. In REMA, for instance, for all the people who's listening to us, he was the initiator of the European Day of Early Music, each 21st March. So, Peter, thank you very much to be here. And the last, but sorry, because it's our lady, Delma Tomlin. Hello, Delma.
Hello, Albert. Hello.
I'm so happy to see you again. The last time, I don't know where it was that we were discussing together. We are proud to be with you here. Delma, he's director and chief executive of the National Center of Early Music, based in York. She was born and educated at Nottingham, and she studied at the Trinity College in London. She started the Veerle Early Music Festival, and she also ran the National Center for Early Music in York. And she's the director of the York Early Music Festival and also the Christmas Festival. You know that the NCEM is the national advocate of early music in England and a center of excellence for music making in the city of York. You know, all the people who's following us, that the NCEM supports the emerging early music artists. You are supporting all the young ensembles with residencies, with the awards. So thank you very much for all your work, Delma, and welcome this evening in this forum.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so after this very long presentation, I would like to ask you, to everybody of you, and you can really participate when you think that it's necessary. To the first, we have 4 big questions in this meeting, this forum. It's about the situation now. So, what's the state of your festival, of your institution, and how your festival has been approached the COVID era, and if also you could mention how the culture is considered in your country by your politicians. So do you have more budget in order to to face this new situation? What kinds of new aids are you being supposed to receive from your regions, government, institutions? I would like to ask you, I don't know, who is the first?
Should we go in the same order as alphabetical, or?
We could go backwards.
You start, Delma.
Why not? Yeah, it's a good idea. It's a good idea.
Thank you. The lockdown in England started literally on March the 21st, which was a day, of course, of early music celebrations anyway. And we were able to still stream the concert that we were going to do that day. We streamed it at lunchtime. And because it was literally the day of the lockdown, it was very emotional, but it also caught just over 70,000 people engaging literally from across America and everywhere else. So it was an extraordinary start for us to think, okay, fine, what do we do next to continue that engagement with an audience that otherwise we wouldn't normally relate to? So we then started to share concerts from our archive every other week, and then fitted that in with a whole sort of series of little what we call bark bites, basically. So in the middle of each week, we got a prelude and fugue out of the 48. So that we tried to keep a conversation going, because we were clearly also devastated at the same time. It was appalling, wasn't it? But we tried to keep a conversation going and to as it were, engage with a new audience. So when we went into the summer festival in July, which we clearly couldn't have as we would normally have in beautiful venues across York, which are quite small by their very nature, and we couldn't have an audience at that point. We changed the format completely. We only engaged native artists, which of course was really tricky. And we broadcast that, and then we got again a very good take up with that festival, which was largely a new audience. So in one sense, whilst it's been incredibly difficult, like most of us, I think, into the future, we will produce hybrid concerts so that we, in a way, may, in the future, have a better economic platform, because we'll still be able to use these small, rather beautiful venues, but potentially to be able to bring in more income. Because the thing we did do straight away was to charge. And I've always said that we are going to pay artists. Artists are clearly worth paying, and therefore it can't be free. So that initial little bit was free, but once we got to the festival and we set up our own paywall through our box office system, and again got in a very broad audience from across the world, then of course we had a brief moment of being able to all sit outside and enjoy each other's company, and did a lot of concerts outside in what we call the garden. It used to be called a churchyard, but never mind, garden will do. And then we've gone through another lockdown just now, and we've opened as of yesterday. So our Christmas festival, which starts tomorrow, is a mixture of very, very small live audience around little cocktail tables. So you buy a table, and you could be one person or four people around that table, and socially distanced away from each other. And then we will record all of those concerts again and put them into a digital festival called York Christmas at Home next weekend. So we've kept the music going, but the people who have struggled the most, of course, are our emerging ensembles, because they haven't been able to travel from colleague to colleague. And again, we've had to just focus on our native ensembles. So that's great if you have a native ensemble, but some of the newer colleagues who've joined emerging haven't. So they've rather lost out at this particular point. And it's clearly not the same experience for the emerging groups. But we do our best, I think, as everybody else around the digital table will say.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Delma. It's really what we asked to share these impressions, these first very difficult months of pandemics. Peter, what about your festival in Sweden?
Well, in March this year, we were abruptly became aware of the new situation that also would affect our activities. That is the European Early Music Day concerts, but mainly the summer festival in the beginning of June. So after analysis, considerations, and several discussions, we decided not to cancel, but to postpone the event. And this was, of course, a rather risky undertaking, since no one knew exactly about the conditions a few months later, if they would be better or worse. So new dates in the second week of September was chosen and coordinated with artists. All production, logistics, and marketing has to be built up kind of from scratch again. I can say that fortunately we managed to move the biggest part of the program and artists involved to this newborn festival in September, but a dozen events had to be cancelled, and the general offer was of course reduced, let's say by a third. For example, a production with the British Tenebrae choir, we know them all, could not be carried out because of the quarantine rules in Great Britain. So that would force the ensemble to refrain from other possible performances when back in London. So in order to adapt the festival to the restrictions due to the pandemic, we were obligated to limit the audience to a maximum of 50 people in the concert hall, the rules of this moment. Also considering physical distance between visitors, and face masks and hand sanitizer were offered to the audience, of course for voluntary use, because in Sweden this is not a rule. So I can say that to realize this festival, despite all difficulties and obstacles, was a very strong experience. Both musicians and listeners expressed their deep feelings and gratitude in this sense. And we, as arrangers, found that to run the event had been exactly the right decision. Nevertheless, there were some shortcomings. Normally the Swedish radio records all evening concerts, but they was not able to do so this year, as live broadcasting in Sweden was not allowed by the authorities. Certainly a big loss for SEMF, for the extended audience. And in terms of financial issues, and due to the restrictions of a maximum of 50 people, SEMF lost kind of 70% of its tickets revenue. The consequences that include reduced concert offerings and limited numbers of visitors, but also a weaker presence regarding marketing and the reduction of the production staff. So how we manage to balance the budget? The concrete financial help for the festival came from the Stockholm region. It was about 15,000 euro, but we also asked SEMF's dedicated followers for donations, which gave a positive result. However, I must mention that SEMF had not received any grants, neither from the Swedish Arts Council, that means the public money from the state, nor from the city of Stockholm. On the bright side of life, I would like to mention our work throughout the festival with a professional live streaming team that broadcast 7 of the main concerts. And this experience gave certainly kind of lust for more. New listeners internationally, not least artists, were happy that their families and fans could follow their performances live. So I believe that the live streaming as a communication tool is here to stay. I don't know, should I say something more about maybe the reaction of the Ministry of Culture and so, or is this a later question?
It's okay. You spend some 4 or 5 minutes. It's perfect if we stop here, so in order
Yes.
to listen the rest of colleagues, and then we come back to some
Yes,
of the matters. Thank you very much, Peter. It's always great to know your experience in Sweden. The next is Albert, I think. Edelman.
Okay.
It's after, yeah.
Very good.
Albert, and what about Brugge's Concertgebouw?
Well, yeah, I could speak about the Concertgebouw in Brugge, of course, but we share a territory with both Bart and Veerle in a way. So maybe I leave the Belgian situation to them. Only to say that we had a John's Passion happening on the day we had to close down, which was filmed at the very last minute and became sort of a very strange, poignant, emotional moment with an ensemble, Collegien Vocale, who were clearly completely distraught to see their future disappear right before them. So that was my last day in the Concertgebouw, which was just very odd, only to return months later when we were allowed back in. Very happy with the Concertgebouw is that we, as soon as we could again, I think my connection might be going down, so please bear with me. When we could again, we opened up the spaces. Even if we couldn't have an audience, we decided to open up spaces to young artists, or not so young artists, to do their work. So there will be a flood of recordings, a flood of performances built on the work people could do in our otherwise empty spaces for for months now. We're basically connecting all kinds of people who ask us, like, can we go for 2 days? Can we go for 3 days? Yes, now you can. Usually, absolutely not, but now you can do these things. So this is something that makes us very happy. But for REMA, of course, as a network that depends on meeting and that had no tradition of really online connection, we had to retool our whole working almost immediately. We were right before Early Music Day, as you know, which had to turn digital in a week. Our Cracker team managed that. We lost all live concerts, but then we had all the living room concerts, which clearly have their limitations and should absolutely not be the future of concert giving. But at least we had music, we had community, things were happening. And after that, we basically saw all our live plans to meet disappear. Most importantly, I think the Early Music Summit we had at just a few weeks ago, which was supposed to be in Brussels, which now was fully online, where we discovered that there's a very strong urge to meet. There's a hunger for contact. There clearly was a lack of community, and the summit seems to have done something to connect people again and give some hope. And it was absolutely fascinating to just discuss all kinds of topics that would have been great in Beaux-Arts, where they might have been discussed by people who go to conferences anyway, people with lots of budget to travel, to stay in expensive hotels, to go drink and eat. But now they were, I think, for 80% maybe replaced by individual artists, replaced by students even, just music students still happening, lots of ensembles. The price, of course, was democratic enough, and it was just so exciting to see all these people who would absolutely never have come to Brussels because they would have been busy or it would have been too expensive, to join the conversation and to discuss early music's future, which, judging from the energy there, we can say is a bright one. I think early music, if we can stick together, if we can change the way we think, we can do a lot. But it means that we have to think who belongs to the early music community. It's not just the artist. It's not the artist against the organizers. It's not the organizers, certainly, because we need all these other people. But it is organizers, artists, audience, this sort of triangle, And early music adds to that a whole range of interesting professions like editing, teaching, media, CD making. All these things come together, instrument building. They all feed into what makes early music. And it was hugely exciting to have all these people together in one digital place. And I can say that afterwards, when we were done, we really felt like we had met everybody, and we were completely exhausted, even if we had to go to the supermarket because I had eaten all my food. So it was quit meeting, go to supermarket, go to bed. Not the ending we would have imagined or hoped for the summit, but very much what happened. So yeah, that was a fun meeting, and that's where REMA is now. We live online until we can live live again, and yeah, we will be bigger and better than ever with 2 former presidents of REMA on this panel. It's a little daunting, but here we are.
And also former vice president, so.
See, exactly.
Okay, so thank you very much, Albert. It's really I'm excited to know from all your experiences in festivals and music hall, as in Bruges, and as well as president of REMA. Of course, you have a broad knowledge of the situations now in Europe. Veerle, what about you? You are belonging to one of the most important music halls in Europe, the Beaux-Arts. And I can imagine you have other problems than other festivals, local festivals. With you have a big building. How did you manage to organize this in this difficult period?
Well, it was very complicated, very difficult. Because, as you said, we are not only a concert hall, but we have also a lot of expositions in our building. We have theater, we have literature. So, of course, in the beginning, in March, everything had to stop immediately. And the music departments decided very soon to construct something new. It was, in fact, to support the individual independent musician, because in the beginning there was no financial support from the government for these musicians, artists. And we set up a series that called Beaux-Arts at Home. So we asked the musicians to stream live concert. It was a very small series, and it was trial and error, but I think we managed to have a nice series. And the main thing was that we supported the musicians. It was free, it was not paid for, because the quality was not that good, because it was not a professional streaming. And then in May, the museums could open their doors again. So one part of Beaux-Arts, the expositions, could open again. And then we started to change this Beaux-Arts at Home project to Beaux-Arts at Beaux-Arts. So we invited musicians, local Belgian musicians or people living in Belgium, to come to the concert hall and to register a concert for not a live stream, but a digital streaming afterwards. In September, we could invite people again also for concerts, so not only for the museums, but the practical organization is very complex. Our board and policy department, COVID department, COVID police, as we call them, they did not want that public could cross each other. So it was sometimes we started a concert at 7 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock, so that these publics did not cross each other. anyway, we had to cancel a lot of concerts because we have mostly international big ensembles, or they canceled their tour themselves, or we had to say, I'm sorry, but we only can invite 200 people in the hall. The public paid tickets, and we can't afford a project of 70,000 euros for 200 people. So it was not a pleasant period, as it is for no one, I think. We instead, of course, a lot of concerts were cancelled, and we tried to fill the gaps with, again, locally based musicians for a public of 200 people, which was financially not a break even, of course, but it was manageable. And then we had the second lockdown in end of October, I think, and we started again with recording some of the concerts that we wanted to present, or we just opened the exposition about Beethoven. It's called Hotel Beethoven. Online, I think you can see, you can follow a virtual tour. So if you go to the website of Beaux-Arts, you're interested, you can see the exposition. And we had planned a whole series of concerts on the periodic pianofortes who were exposed in the exposition. So we registered these concerts, and we try to make now a kind of program with the different pianoforte players with these concerts that is an added value to the guided tour you can see online. So it is, we often had the idea that the COVID police restricted us in what we wanted to do. We had to fight a lot internally to maintain a concert that we organized during the REMA weekend, during the summit of the REMA. It was with 35 musicians, so not a very big amount of musicians, but it was very complicated, and it is asking a lot of energy of the people who are working for it. So it's not a way to continue this kind of presenting concerts.
Okay, so thank you very much, Veerle. We are aware how difficult it is also for you. We of course we are now facing to small programmers, big festivals. In the REMA, we have all kinds of promoters and venues. Let's finish this first round. And sorry, Bart, because I put you in the bad order with Bart Demuyt. What about Amuse and all this policy faced to the uncertainty of this period with your very specialized festival too, Laus Polyphonie. So it's quite different of Palais Beaux-Arts. How about you, your organization?
Okay, thanks, Albert. First of all, I would like to thank the organization and my dear colleagues in Spain for the kind invitation to participate at the conference, The Future of the Past. What a title. Amuse Flanders Festival Antwerp organizes, as Alberto already mentioned, the festival Laus Polyphonie, but also seasonal concerts, courses, lectures, summer classes, the International Young Artist Presentation, workshops, residencies, and other similar activities. The concert hall, Amuse, is situated in and around the Baroque St. Augustine Church, located in the center of Antwerp. The building combines an impressive historical setting with a wonderful contemporary architecture. Amuse, as already mentioned also, as a concert hall, subscribes for the full 100% the principle of the historically informed performance for both historical and contemporary creations. So composers as Philippe de Vitry, Johann Sebastian Bach, Clara Schumann, Stravinsky, and even Sofia Gubaidolina. But as you all know, life was normal till the beginning of this year. As said before, each year we organize our summer festival, Laus Polyphoniae, and we have a series of around 45-50 seasonal concerts from the beginning of October until Easter, and March, beginning of April. Or half April. We were about to end our season when Corona struck mid-March, and we had to cancel no more than 4 concerts and some smaller activities at that point. In fact, there was only one real cancellation. The other concerts could be postponed till the next season. When in May we started to realize that COVID-19 was going to stay longer than everybody initially expected, we contacted every artist involved in Laus Polyphoniae 2020, the early music festival in August, and were able to postpone the entire festival and its entire construction day by day until 2022. Instead, we created an online platform, polyphonyconnects.com, where we offered 10 archive concerts and 3 live concerts, live concert without audiences, because at that moment it was not allowed in Antwerp, as well as daily also introductions with experts, concert fragments and personal considerations, a virtual edition of the International Artist Presentation with Raquel Andueza, and an international summer school, and 2 extensive, special made for the festival documentaries, one about Peter Salamire and one about a recently discovered 15th century manuscript called The Leuven Chansonnier. Each concert was an archive recording broadcasted during the last 15 editions of Laus Polyphoniae, broadcasted by the Flemish classical radio station Clara. To give you some examples, there was a concert with Huelga's Ensemble performing Eton Choir Book 16 did Miserere Allegri, and a Flanders Festival commission by James Macmillan. Collegium Vocale did Josquin des Prés. Capella Pratensis reconstructed a mass at the Sistine Chapel, and so on and so on. This resulted in a very, very high number of virtual listeners, visitors, and we had visitors from over the world, from the US till Australia, Japan, etc., etc. So at this moment, our current concert season, the season 2021, started earlier October as planned, with the first concerts in 6 months for a live audience. But with COVID protocols applied, we were able to seat about 150 people. And in a normal situation, our concert hall welcomes 400, 420 people. These protocols impose a minimal distance of 1.5 meters in the audience, as well as a distance of 1.5 to 3 meters between musicians, depending on whether there are singers, winds, or other instruments. So for singers and for the wind players, it's 3 meters, and for the other instruments in Flanders or in Belgium, I have to say Belgium, in these is it 1.5 meters. However, 15 days later, and after 2 concerts, so half October, last October, we had to shut down again, and we had to postpone 14 concerts, sorry. It goes without saying that artists, and especially young freelance artists, are suffering greatly from this crisis. We therefore initiated a fund, and with donations of our audience, we are engaging young musicians, young Belgian musicians, to make an audio or a video recording in our hall. We cooperate now with the Flemish classical radio station Clara to promote some of these young artists, and we'll stream the concerts to our audience, as well as spread the music by using QR codes on posters all over the city, just like we did during Polyphony Connects, so last Polyphonia 2020, last summer, with a selection of young international artists. It is not possible at this moment to look in a crystal ball, but we decided to start with a concert at earliest at the beginning of the spring 2021, so the 21st of March 2021, and to organize a kind of a hybrid festival, Laus Polyphonia 2021, celebrating Josquin des Prés, combining live concerts and concerts on the same virtual platform, Polyphony Connects, as we did last summer. So we just have to wait and see what next season will bring us, and let us hope that our Amuse concert season 21-22 with Andreas Scholl, with Orlinski, Amandine Beyer, Thomas Dunford, and many others will happen in stabilized conditions. So let us hope.
Okay, thank you very much, Bart, because you also explained some of the points of the next programmation. And let's talk about the future. I think we are aware that some of the audience that we have this evening in Spain, they are artists, musicians, students of musicology, of music, and we are worried, of course, for our future. And let's talk about two things about the future. I would say the first one is how are your governments in your local institutions implementing some measures for next month? So did you agree with them some policies? Some of the measures have been implemented. The first one, if you can answer shortly, and the second one, I'm really interested that we share in this forum. What do you think about which strategy in this dark future? Because we have not to forget that the pandemic maybe could be the mortal blow for our very fragile world. Maybe it's Albert, the first in the list.
Well, I would say for Rema, the government that is the most important to us is the European Union. Of course, it's the Commission's budget that control the near future. I'm somewhat confident that at least at the Commission's level, there is a lot of goodwill, and the sense of urgency is absolutely felt. But since culture is not culture is in a very large part a question of the member nations, and so it's every country by itself that takes all kinds of decisions that impact the arts. Closing a border is a national decision. Vaccinating people in a certain order is a national decision. Buying enough vaccine is clearly a national decision. It's way too early to say that things are going wrong there for the arts, but it's as active as the European Commission is, and as good as they are also in asking the member countries to member states, I should say, to dedicate a certain percentage of the recovery fund to the arts, to actually increase the Creative Europe budget compared to the earlier plans to reduce it. So lobbying from the Parliament, helped by lobbying by organizations like REMA. It helped increase the budget where it would have shrunk. So that's a very useful thing. But after that, it is really it's up to the member states to deal with these things. And in Belgium, we have the delicious opportunity to actually have regions who decide on where and how much culture money goes where. So it's extremely difficult to extrapolate, I think, from our individual cases to a more national thing. But sharing examples is absolutely interesting. I think of Germany, where there's been a lot of organization in order for the government to respond more forcefully. In Belgium, that has been quite different. Not as much organization, not as forceful a response maybe from some of the governments here. Other countries just take very different measures against the virus, which have a very strange impact, so that in the Netherlands now people are scrambling to do concerts for 30 people because 30 people is the maximum, and everybody seems to be doing tiny concerts. Not very sustainable, but a slightly amusing / tragic example, I would say, of the differences that happen in Europe. But yeah, Veerle and Bart can maybe talk more about the Belgian situation, how things are apportioned here.
Yes, of course. Let's continue. So, in order to follow our timing, Veerle, what could you say about the compromise of the politicians when you speak with the responsible of the Brussels region? Are they? Do you have the impression that they are really aware of what is happening with the artists?
Mm-hmm. The situation of Beaux-Arts is very well, not exclusive, but it's different because as Albert said, culture is a regional responsibility, but in Brussels you have 3 national institutions. It's the Opera House, La Monnaie, it's the Belgian National Orchestra, and it is the Palais des Beaux-Arts, so it's Beaux-Arts. And we depend on the federal government. We have to follow, of course, the same restrictions as the Flemish part and the Walloon part do concerning organizing concerts. So the distance between public or no public at all. But the financing is completely different. Just a small example, in Flanders, they could put their personnel on a technical unemployment stature, and we could not, because we are a federal organization, and the unemployment thing is a federal matter. So complicated, but it means that Beaux-Arts had a very heavy financial cost because of the personnel that stayed in function for 100% during the last 6 months. And some of the Flemish organizations, for instance, they could put their personnel in the technical unemployment situation, and they do not have to pay the cost for the personnel. I read today in the newspaper that our minister for Brussels will finance Beaux-Arts with an extra subvention because the financing of Beaux-Arts is a bit different. The proportion of the subvention is very small regarding the complete budget. So we have a lot of private income, and that is from rental, the concert hall, but also a lot of other rooms in Beaux-Arts, and ticketing. Both kind of income are at this moment zero, of course. So I think that at least the Brussels, well, the federal minister, Wilmès, she is really aware of this, for these 3 institutions, particular situation. I think, but Bart can maybe explain better that for the Flemish organizations, there was no such a problem, because the government continues to pay the subvention, even if you could not organize one concert during the period you should have organized concerts. So they continue paying the grants and the subventions, and they do not expect anything to have back for it. So I think that the problem for the Flemish organizations was rather
different.
It's not so different, yeah. It's also the reason why why Beaux-Arts could not pay a compensation for the artists of whom we had to cancel the concerts, and other organizations in Belgium, Flemish organizations mostly, could pay a certain certain remuneration, but we could not, because we already had this huge loss of money. And it gives some tension, I think, because some ensembles, they say, the single can pay, but Beaux-Arts can't pay. And it's
Okay, thank you. Yes, it's very interesting. Well, and let's maybe listen to Bart with this other Flemish experience. I'm sorry for the Spanish audience, because you are making us jealous, you know, because in Spain, I think we have other problematic. I think in France, in Germany, in Belgium, I have the feeling that you are receiving more support. But Bart, try to explain us maybe the problematic of the also in relationship with the early music, more Renaissance and medieval ensembles, because it's different problematic than the Baroque ensembles. How are you solving? It's really. Do you have a very strong public support policy?
Well, I would say the situation in Brussels is a totally different situation than in Flanders, but the policy to early music, let's say, lucky us, because in Flanders since years there is subvention from government supporting the early music, and it's possible to take risks, and it's possible to focus on the music in the Middle Ages and music in the Renaissance. So, and that's not the most easy thing to do. So lucky us. And just to say a few words about subvention in Flanders, in my situation in the concert hall Amuse, Flanders Festival Antwerp, we have a very strong relationship with the city of Antwerp, and we have a very strong relationship with the region, Flemish government. So each year we have a kind of structural relationship, because in Flanders and on the level of the city, we have a reglementation, or in the context of the region, it's an arts decree, and in the decree it's really stipulated. Each year you can have an amount of, in our case, from the Flemish government, each year we have 600,000 euros, and from the city of Antwerp, each year we have 700,000 euros, and that's therefore I would say lucky us, because as Veerle also already mentioned, COVID was there in March, but the subvention still exists, and it's till the end of the year the money came. So also for all the members of our organization, it was possible to work. And I know that in other European countries, I have no, I do not know the specific situation in Spain, but I know that other countries have a totally different system of subvention, and that's maybe much more risk than our situation in Flanders.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe it's interesting also to listen to Peter. What about the Nordic countries? You are Danish too?
no, I'm Swede, but I'm born in Copenhagen.
Okay, you are born. Okay, so maybe you have also
Nordic. Yeah.
You can also explain us about this future, this insecurity, job situation for artists.
I think the impact of a pandemic on the cultural world and the values are kind of the whole in worldwide. I would say the same ones. So the artists and the programmers and the producers and the audiences are suffering the same consequences of this often directed measures against the cultural expressions. So also here in the Nordic countries, is kind of depression perceptible in all areas, and firstly in the work situation of our musicians and cultural workers in general, who in many cases have to give up their hard-earned professions, and this is very, very bad. This is a phenomenon we are seeing here. But when concerning the ministry's actions, when the pandemic was announced, Sweden and the other Nordic countries' ministries of culture, they reacted, but kind of inch by inch. Here in Sweden, after the first shock, the cultural sector received a compensation of around 45 million euro between March and May. I am speaking about the whole country, of course. And a new support package of 145 million euro was launched now in the autumn, and at this moment is being distributed through the Swedish Arts Council before the end of this year. So in total, Sweden spent 190 million euro on culture. But please take into account that at this moment the public performances or the gatherings are allowed for not more than 8 persons. That means that all cultural activities has been cancelled at least until the end of December. If we have a short look on our neighbors in Norway, the offered amount was around 220 million euro in total, and in Finland only 40 million euro. In Denmark, 30 million euro. This is so we need, of course, to have a look on the how many people we have in the country, but it's also a question of the attitude from the ministries. And this is funny because an interesting Norwegian evaluation shows that the arrangers are stimulated in a better way if they keep their activities alive, although in a smaller scale or format, instead of cancelling events completely. So this is Norway. So there are different approaches, but this should be a preferable one for the well-being of everyone. So and for the next year, a similar package is announced in Sweden, a kind of restart support subsidy. But anyway, for us, I would say we are in a special time for reflection and also for new ideas. I would like to encourage all of us to keep with spirit and develop a fellow effort in order to let, in our case, the early music survive any pandemic. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Peter. I really thank you because you are giving very concrete figures. I think for our friends who are listening to us, it's also important to have this more concrete dimension. And let's go now to let's talk with Delma, who maybe can give us some information about the policy that your government, or your region, your city is implementing, and in this more future perspective, how do you think that we are able to maybe survive? Because it's not easy for us.
it's not easy. I didn't talk about the Beverley Festival at the beginning, which happens at the end of May, and I had postponed that completely for a year, but the local council gave the grant that they would normally give. So I was able to give half of that to the musicians and half to ourselves to cover all the publicity costs because it was so late in the day. The national government worked with our Arts Council. We, as the NCM, are an Arts Council national portfolio organisation, which means that we're within that sort of cultural basket of funding. The Arts Council were very, very keen to keep all these NPOs alive on the basis that if we start to crumble, we won't have an infrastructure to revive whatever is going to happen as and when we can. So they ultimately managed to get £1.57 billion out of the UK government, which is a lot of money. That took quite a while, but believe me, was truly celebrated because, of course, normally they're not as generous. I mean, I look at Bart and just, you know, gosh, what a lot of lovely money. But normally, so we got 50,000 of that cultural recovery monies in order to operate until the end of March, on the basis that we must do things, we must put on concerts and share all the time, but we are very unlikely to get any amount of ticket income back for that. So that's to make up for the deficit, really, because we, like Veerle, we hire out the National Centre for Early Music for a whole series of weddings and conferences and recordings, and it has to earn a living. And that, of course, just stopped completely in March, along with everything else. So we were anticipating a deficit of about £75,000 at the end of the year, which is about 10% of our annual turnover. And this way, we should come in just about to break even. But we will, as part of that, in terms of the future, we will put on a festival in March, which will be a spring festival, which is the first time we've done that. I've been thinking about it for a long time. York is a very musical city. There's a lot around Easter and the Minster and everything else. And that actually gives me that opportunity to do that. And again, I don't really expect much back in income from the public other than what we can bring in for the digital side of it all. As other colleagues have said, we asked for donations. The people were very generous to start off with. And then, of course, after about the fourth time of asking, that doesn't quite work in the same way, which is why we put in that paywall for the summer festival and again for Christmas. The summer festival we sold for £30 and it involved, I think, 9 concerts. Extraordinarily good value. But you don't know how to pitch it. This time we're charging £50 for 9 concerts. Again, who knows whether this is the right amount. We're all learning all the time for it all. The emerging project, which is funded largely by Creative Europe, we will ask for an extension in the time in the same way with REMA. We have to try and push the project along a little bit because it's so difficult to have those residencies for young people. And our Young Artists competition, which would normally be next July, which is really important internationally for the younger ensembles, we've had to move to July 22. So like Bart, we've moved things on a year. It's just a little bit too complicated to think that we could be asking people to organise their travel arrangements and it might all fall apart by next July. And we do have the added issue of what Brexit will mean to us. And whilst we're absolutely confident that that will sort itself out, it won't necessarily sort itself out within January and February. So that just seemed a more sensible way of doing things. So the future is, in one sense, quite positive, but it's the audience, I suppose, that I worry about. I worry about the musicians who've had to, frankly, pretty well, they've obviously economically, they're in terrible strait. some of them. But I do worry about the audience, because a lot of our audience are older, and when they will have the confidence to come back to concerts in real life, I think that will be quite a long time, and we will almost have to reinvent ourselves to bring them back in, and that is unlikely to happen very quickly.
Okay, thank you so much, Delma. I think it's also a very important point to think about this audience, sometimes old men and women. And I would like to ask you to continue this discussion, keeping in mind that we have now still 20 minutes, not a lot of time, and that we also would like to open the floor to the further discussions with some of the audience who's following us. But I would like to ask you maybe a last question. Some days ago, I spoke with some musicians, you know, by my profession, in France, and they explained me that for some of them it was easier because they signed some contracts for concerts next year, and some musicians were desperate because they had to face 9-10 months without any production, any performance. The solution that in France is, and also some of you have commented this, Veerle and also Albert, is about the live streaming. Do you think that this could be the solution for the artist and for your audience? And another question, if you, of course, it's not necessary that you answer to both of this. Of course, with the quarantine rules, we are forced to engage local ensembles, because sometimes they are not able to travel. So do you think that if we are focusing in local agendas, this will be enough? So we are protecting the national networks, and we are part of REMA, so we have to think European, but we are at this moment we are adopting protectionist policy. So how do we can how do you see this new future in Europe? Bart?
Albert, yes, thanks. Just a little issue, because it's not because it's a Flemish ensemble like the Huelgas ensemble and others that the musicians are all Flemish. I think if you look to the Huelgas ensemble in a normal situation, maybe you have 6 or 7 different countries. So that's a bit tricky. In this case, you have some ensembles, but really early music ensembles, not a lot, with only Flemish musicians. Just a little remark about that. Albert.
Maybe I'll add quickly that the Flemish Culture Ministry set up a system to support people here who would have worked but couldn't work. If Huelgas had a concert cancelled, that means that 2 people could get money from the Flemish government. All these other people could not get money, and many of them were also in their own country. I mean, then you fall back on where you happen to live, and that is why REMA, together with all the other performing arts umbrellas, shall we say, keeps pushing for looking across borders, because it's pointless. It's pointless. The performing arts exist because we can move. I'm sorry, Brexit voters, but it's true. It is because we can move that we have the richness, that we have that we can give the audience what they are used to now. And if we focus on the local only, it's a fantastic opportunity for ensembles who were ready to go, but couldn't get a chance, couldn't get the foot in the door. They can now get a foot in the door, but surely we cannot keep them in Spain, Flanders, Germany, Sweden. They have to travel in order to build their career and build their identity as artists. And yeah, it needs to stop, but it really does need to stop. We need to start thinking about cross-border travel, and we will. I mean, surely this is a pause. It's not an end. We shouldn't think this will be the situation forever, but there might be an opportunity to be more clever about cross-border collaborations, about people traveling in an easier way. There's all kinds of taxation issues between countries. It's
quite
yeah,
complex.
Lots of work to deal with, and yeah.
And I think each country is different, because the situation in France is different, but also the UK, Delma, is totally different, isn't it?
Yes.
It
is indeed. But we were talking at the REMA conference about how many of the musicians who were involved there were actually re-evaluating their lives as well, and that they didn't necessarily want to go into such a frenetic schedule into the future, but they would prefer to come to the UK for a longer period of time. That's not necessarily very realistic as a promoter, of course, certainly within the current setup, because we all want something a little different, and if it's streaming, it's complicated. But you can see that we are in a moment of such change that, yes, absolutely, Albert, we all want to be back on the road again, but maybe something will shift a bit, certainly for those who had to work quite so hard.
And you add to that the ecological aspect, where it's not sustainable on any level to jump on planes every day and do a concert in all the European capitals like many of the famous ensembles. It's how they make their money. It's not by being in residence for a week in a tiny French village with a beautiful. I'm absolutely on both sides of this.
I think that the online experience never will or can replace the feeling of a live performance. It may be a complement, of course, but we need really this live encounter between the music, the musicians, and the listener. So this is a thing that I have. Maybe we will have a different world with different conditions, and we will maybe listen in a different way, and we will play in a different way. I don't know, but we will always need the direct contact between us and the arts. So
I think we all agree on that absolutely. But that hybrid thing of introducing digital technology into that concert, which does allow other people access, probably much cheaper. They don't, and they don't have to travel. Surely that is the way that we will move in the future, and we will choose. We're lucky enough to choose to go to a live concert. Yes, we can afford it and everything else, but maybe others will just get more out of early music than perhaps was possible before. I don't know.
Is it possible, you think, to create a new in-between art form? Because just putting a camera in front of a few performers is poor. That's not.
Oh, absolutely.
That doesn't
absolutely.
do much.
I think Veerle mentioned quality. It's absolutely about, and we're all learning about sound engineers and how you introduce things and give added value to a concert. Yes,
but quality, colleagues, isn't cheap.
No, it's not. It's not.
So streaming a good quality stream concert is expensive, and also there's a future. I'm 100% yes, but the investment is for future is also on the financial level.
Yes.
And then we just
putting one camera and just doing something. No, it's more than that.
And I don't know if we can balance really the interest of the audience listening through the internet with the investment, as you said, Bart. That it was not possible here this year at all, but it was our first experience. So maybe in the future it could be a better balance in between.
Well, clearly there are opportunities. Delma sold ton of tickets. I think of the example of Live in London, which is a Voces 8 vehicle with all kinds of ensembles performing pre-recording concerts and broadcasting them live. They sold 40,000 tickets for these online things. The investment, I mean, I know the people who do it, they're commercial. They'll get their money back. They use public money, they use private money, and they use tickets. Yeah.
I think if you sell a digital concert, you have to provide really extra digital content, and you have to make that digital experience as interesting as a live experience. It's a completely different experience, but it has to be an experience. I think just put a camera on an ensemble and stream this is not going to attract a lot of people, but I think it can be an interesting way to attract a different public than we get in the concert hall. But then you have to have, I think, a lot of attention to this package and to the completeness of what you have to offer.
You do, absolutely.
Do you think, my last question is, do you think that this crisis will change the way that we consume the culture? So if audience is used to follow a concert by streaming, and maybe they are used to listen small ensembles or more national ensembles because they avoid to travel, big orchestras will disappear. So the performing arts will be consumed in another way in 10 years?
I hope not. I do not hope that we lose some of the musical forms. If Albert says we will lose the symphonic orchestras, please no. But I think it's an opportunity to reach a different public. I think that's important. I do not hope we will lose the concert as such, the live experience, but I hope with these digital content we can attract a public that doesn't want to sit for 90 minutes in a concert hall.
And on that one, you were asking Albert about how younger performers start to, if you like, reconnect, and that is a way for them to start to make their own friendship club, to draw in patrons, to have that very personal relationship with their supporters who, through the digital technology, because in a way it's much more personal, isn't it? You can, in a funny sort of way, you can have an easier relationship with somebody. Not least you can just switch them off if things get too bad, you know.
Yes. Peter, would you like to
shortly,
add
my biggest fear is the general status of culture, how we will be a part or not of the new world, or whatever we are expecting will come now, the post-corona thing. So I mean, culture has never been a big interest for the politicians and in general. So I'm a bit afraid about what will come in this way. So we need really to work together, and I think REMA is a very nice platform for that, Albert.
Okay, I'm sorry, we are short on time. We have still 7 minutes, and I know Javier Marín asked me to be quite strict because we have other sessions after this one. So we have now 7-8 minutes to open the discussion. So I open the floor to the questions that you may have. I see here we have 44 people following this discussion?
Cibran has a very good question, I think. Cibran Sierra.
Maybe he's here.
I think so. He just posted it.
It's the last one.
Yes.
Okay, Cibran, are you here?
I'm here.
You can ask your question.
Hello, Cibran.
Yeah, it's written in the chat. I mean, it's just talking about global and local sustainability in the current context. There is a big debate in Spain nowadays about the lack of balance in public funded programs between local and foreign artists, statistically here in Spain, in favor of the latter. So do your countries and institutions have specific policies devised to address this issue? And in your opinion, do you find this controversial debate important, helpful, harmful, given the current agenda? I'm curious to know what's your perspective from different European contexts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cibran. Thank you very much. Very interesting question. Who has an answer?
I feel a strong responsibility. So if the debate is not really dealt with in Belgium per se, I think it's really the programmer's responsibility to get out of our shell, to step away from strange exclusivity rules, and to focus more, to create diversity in our program. That's basically the word that we need to think about a lot. Diversity, present all phases of people's careers, star phase, but also mid phase, starting phase. Don't only go for starting, but really also focus on the mid career, and then make sure you cover all, because there's so much happening, especially in Spain. There's so many very active people who think about so much more than just presenting music, really having a role in society as artists. Don't forget them.
Peter?
In Sweden, I think I agree totally with Albert, that is the programs, we have a responsibility there, the programmers. But in Sweden, particularly, the problem is that the audience is not familiar with so many early music artists coming from the Middle and South Europe. So that it is kind of our policy to have foreign artists because of that, because we need to show the importance of early music in terms of interpreters, in terms of performers, international performers. So of course we also invite the Swedish ones, but there are not so many. So we need Europe.
Okay, Bart, Veerle. Okay, we have another question here. José Manuel Tapena from Santiago de Compostela, who's asking about the streaming classical music platforms. He's asking what are the best that you have, that you know, where you can charge the tickets. For instance, he spoke about Idagio, and he's quite interested to know if Veerle or Peter, you know, streaming platforms for free, because it's one of the possible solutions for small festivals, for instance.
Well, for free, I would say not. Delma, sorry.
Just for free, I would use Facebook, because you get all that interaction, you get the chatter with it, and you get to know your audience in a very different way, and then on YouTube. But I would just say that part of this business of setting up this paywall for us meant that we could hang on to the data. The most important thing for all artists is to know who their audience are and to try and hone those people, to look after them, to encourage them to come back to you. And if you give that data to another commercial organization, you are giving something incredibly valuable away. So try and do something that means that you can do it. We set it up through our own website, and it's complicated, but it's so worth it in the longer term. Sorry to interrupt you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Delma. We have also an interesting view of this streaming problematic. Now it's 6:30 in Spain. We are used to finish here. Let me just ask if there is another question. Digo en español, si alguna de las personas que están escuchándonos quieren preguntar algo a nuestros invitados de esta tarde. No.
Parece que no.
Okay, so thank you very much. Let me thanks again to this extremely team that we have this afternoon. So thank you very much, Delma Tomlin from the National Center of Early Music in York. Thank you very much, Peter Bonvik. Next time, I promise you that you will speak in Spanish and everybody will be astonished with your, sí, con tu dominio. Thank you very much, Bart Demuyt from the AMUS and Laos Polyphony Organization. Thank you very much, Veerle Declerck of the Beaux-Arts Center in Brussels. And thank you very much, Albert Edelman, of the president of the REMA and music coordinator of the Concertgebouw in Bruges. Thank you to everybody for listening, and let's continue in the next session in, I think, 30 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
Albert.
indeed.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Muchas gracias.
Bye.
Thank you all our presenters. Thank you also to Albert Percasens for his kind moderation of the session. And we will start in half an hour talking about these same topics, but from the Spanish perspective.